In this video, I'm talking about the air signs. That's Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. Are you an air sign yourself, or do you have someone close to you that's an air sign? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some general characteristics, break them down a little bit, their strengths, their weaknesses, what makes this element unique in the zodiac. As a little astrology 101, there are 4 different elements in the astrological zodiac. That means that there are 3 zodiac signs in each element. We have fire, earth, water, and we have air. Let's think about air like we're 5 years old, or if you were explaining what these elements were to a 5-year-old. You can show them what fire is. Don't leave them unsupervised, but like you can show them what it is. You can show them what water is. And you can show them what earth is. How do you explain to a 5-year-old what the hell air is? The air signs out there are probably being like, oh, well, I read Moby Dick to my kid like when he was in the womb, and I'm happily able to explain that air is, you know, oxygen and carbon dioxide and blah, blah, blah. Why do air signs have to be such nerds all the time? The point I'm trying to make is that you immediately realize like air is not tangible. Air can take so many different forms. It's abstract. We can look at an ocean and we see, damn, that's like a big and powerful ocean. Air can be like different, you know, like, and we don't really realize it, right? It can be breezy, it can be cloudy, it can be light, it can change its speed all in an instant. Even these basic symbolic associations and images help us understand that air signs are actually one of the more misunderstood set of signs in the zodiac. They truly are. And if you think about the 3 air signs, you think about what their symbols represent, think about how they're a little bit different than the rest of the symbols in the zodiac. With air signs, we have, a set of scales, the twins, and we have the water bearer. Well, the scales, they're an inanimate object. That's unique. No other sign has that. But also, you don't find any animals in this element. Earth, fire, water, they all have at least some animal symbols as part of their zodiac signs. Air signs have none. The things that make us most human, the things that separate us from other animals in the animal kingdom, are most reflected in the sign of air. Air signs tend not to react impulsively. They tend not to be hyper aggressive in a physical sense. They think. They want to use their intellect and their reason to get themselves in and out of situations, and mainly just to process every kind of situation that they encounter in life. Like everything, you know, there's pluses to that and there's downsides to that. In emotionally charged situations, air signs tend not to lose their cool very easily. They don't usually fly off the handle, and even more generally, they just tend not to be extremely spontaneous signs, compared to the others. There's always a delay in how they are acting and processing things because they're processing everything through their heads and their minds. Obviously, there's lots of nuances between all 3 of the air signs. They're all very different in a lot of important ways, but what makes them similar as air signs, they have an ability to assimilate and integrate many different perspectives, and they incorporate it when they actually express their own perspective. Whereas some of the other signs are reacting literally from here and they're reacting immediately, and it's just so instinctual. Air signs are they're always kind of like not totally there, right? It's almost like they are a hologram in the metaverse and their real body's like in another place, and maybe it's reacting there, but by the time it all gets to the metaverse where you're interfacing with them, it's like a little bit more detached, it's a little bit calm, it's a little bit more logical. They're always thinking and processing things, right? They have such a strong need to organize the world around them into systems and logical beliefs and frameworks. And so one of the reasons why they're not that spontaneous or why they're not as instinctual as some of the other signs is because anytime they receive some like drastically new piece of information or some big event happens that they're a part of, it's almost like their first concern is not, ooh, how should I react and communicate to like these other people? It's like, I need to like adjust the framework that I have that's related to whatever this situation is. Things are changed now, and like I need to do that, and I want to do it right now. And then other people are like, yo, air sign, like, hello, are you there? Like what are you feeling? Hello. That need to be always so logical and so intellectually tied is obviously a superpower, right? This is a trait that plays out for them very well, in professional disciplines and you know, whatever, and education and learning, studying, research, all that kind of stuff. That's a given. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I also don't want to underplay it because it is actually a huge strength, and it's a strength that other signs don't have to the same degree. That mental-based way of living is also extremely frustrating sometimes for the people around air signs. It's just like, you know, sometimes they just want to like shake them and say like, hey, I don't want to talk to your brain. I want to talk to like the human inside of you, like the fallible, emotional human inside of you. Is that person there? That's why like air signs are not always so good at discussing highly emotional issues or supporting someone who's highly emotional. The absolute most terrifying scenario for an air sign is like approaching someone that's like crying excessively about something that the other person has no idea about and has never experienced, and they just kind of have to provide this genuine but like nondescript emotional support. And sometimes air signs have a hard time being very present, right? Because they're always thinking like, ooh, what should I say to this? Ooh, I'm scanning my brain, like robotic scanning my brain, never experienced this. Scan for something polite to say in this situation, oh, nothing registering. Like they're just always kind of like thinking and thinking and thinking. And then they start getting worried about like, oh shit, like am I acting like a sociopath right now? Like I'm definitely not a sociopath. Like I want to help this person. I just like really don't know how, and I'm really uncomfortable. For people that are very close to air signs in their life, they will kind of come to understand the air sign person. They will kind of have to accept this. That's not to say there aren't some moments where that kind of detachment, that emotional detachment, isn't just kind of painful. You know, it can be really painful, and there's a certain level of coldness that you experience sometimes if you lay yourself bare to an air sign, right? Because it's just like you put all this out there and you get like almost like nothing, or you have that feeling like I was describing earlier where it almost seems like the person is completely left, like they've just shut down, they're not really there, they've shot up into their head, and it's like there's not even a person there. Sometimes air signs get so intense into their head during like an emotionally charged situation that they can't even hear the outside world. It's just literally like, yo, Ricky, and like they won't answer right away because they're literally just like having this inner monologue, and that's hard. That can be really hard. On the plus side though, air signs can be incredibly almost childlike and innocent in the sphere of emotional things, because intellectually they do understand the importance of it, and they do understand, and they definitely aren't sociopaths. Like they do have those very strong emotions. They're just a little bit more pushed down. And it sort of depends on the air sign and the particular individual, how much so, but they are there. And that's why like when some emotional situations come up, like you also see an air sign just completely waxing poetic about a particular moment, like, oh, they just like went and met their friend's newborn baby, and it was such a loving moment because friends were there, and it was like your friend you grew up with, and you see this new life, and so then like you'll see the air sign suddenly like wanting to talk about it, and they say, oh, it's so beautiful and this and that, and they're like articulating these things with such like poetic passion, and it's kind of funny, and it's so endearing. And that's like sort of an example of like a safe way for an air sign to kind of express that, and it comes out. Whereas like another sign that is just a little bit more like emotionally practical, they'll just be like, yeah, that was really beautiful, just so special, and like move on. And whereas the air sign's like blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, dude. Air signs tend to do really well with friends, family members, romantic partners in their life that can kind of help balance some of these traits in them, right? In a kind way, just kind of check them on their tendency to overthink or sort of check out of emotional situations. And air signs actually, I think they're not given enough credit for how loyal they really are and how intense their emotional needs are. So if they have these people that do love them, despite all of air signs' flaws, air signs are so extremely attached to them after a certain period of time, and so emotionally dependent on them. Sometimes almost like in an imbalanced kind of way. It's like air sign can't quite get those things or access those things for themselves, so they're extremely kind of attracted to people that might wear their heart on their sleeve. And these relationships do teach air signs a lot. Air sign is gonna want like more of those people to just read their mind and expect that those other people are going to understand what air sign is going through, because You know, air sign just doesn't want to communicate it directly. But if they're good friends and they're good friends that also like challenge the air sign person, they'll challenge them and just be like, look, I can tell something's wrong. I'm not going to read your mind. Like, you have to be able to do this, you know, etc. It's a little bit of a long process for air signs to really kind of develop more access to those emotions. But it does happen over time, and especially in the context of relationships and friendships and communities where they really feel safe. And the air sign person knows that like they're well beyond the point where any of those people would judge an air sign for their thought process or saying the wrong thing or messing up, right? When they're less worried about like how they're coming across or how their words are coming across, you see more of the spontaneous emotional stuff start to come through a little bit more naturally. There's a lot of different things we could say about air signs, but I wanted to just make a general video about some of the main characteristics. Hope you find this helpful. That's all for now.